What's up, YouTubers? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to tell you mid-muffler versus resonator. Should you do one or the other, or should you do both? So without further ado, let's get into it. So guys, since we're talking about mid-muffler versus resonator, I came to the back of the car where these beautiful black powder coated 5-inch tips that I got on in my last video are on the charger. Now today, like I said, I'm gonna tell you mid-muffler versus resonator, should you do one or the other, and I'm gonna tell you the 100% real deal on it. I did not know this before I got it done. I watched some other videos, but I just knew I wanted to do some exhaust work when I got the charger. So, right now, in my last video I showed you I got my resonators taken off, and you already know I did the mid-muffler. So this car is pretty much straight pipe from the catalytic converter all the way back to these 5-inch tips. Now, for me, I didn't take my resonators off to make it louder. And to be honest, when you take your resonators off, number one, it's not gonna make this car any louder than it already is. To be completely honest. And I've done it inside the housing and outside revving. When you take your resonators off, it does not make the car any louder. To be honest, what it does do is give you a lot more drone inside the car. And the drone is between 1,000 and 2,000 RPM. And it's not bad. It's not terrible. Like at certain points in time, like if you're doing a lot of city driving where you really don't, or a lot of constant speed driving, because the car usually idles around 1,000 to 2,000 RPM when you're actually driving like highway speeds or going to normal speed, you hear it a lot more if you really pay attention to it. But if you got the radio on, you really don't hear it that much, so it's not really that big of a deal. But you do get a lot more drone when you take your resonators off. But the car itself does not get any louder. It gets as loud as it can when you take your mids off, unless you go catless or you gut out your cats, which I would never do. This car does not get any louder, so that's number one. I really took my resonators off to fit these black powder coated 5-inch tips. Now in my video, I didn't really show you guys, I showed you guys before they got put on, but I didn't really show you guys like what they actually look like on the car themselves, which I think you probably could have saw in the video a little bit, but these 5-inch tips, that's the only reason. The guy said I can't fit these on with the resonator, so I said, hey man, take those things off. That's the only reason why I straight piped it. In North Carolina, you know that I've already told you guys that you have to have one set of mufflers. Now for me, if I had known to fit these 5-inch tips on there, I needed to take off my resonators. I honestly would have took off my resonators before I took off my mids. And it wouldn't have made the car that much louder, because the resonators really, they don't really do much. It's really kind of like see-through. The mids are where you get the exhaust sound. They really suffocate this exhaust system, these cars. But I would have ended up changing my mid mufflers to performance mufflers instead of straight piping it from the beginning, because there's not many, especially on the mopar cars, there's not many exhaust tips. Now everybody knows on the Challengers you do quad tips because they look nice with the quad tips. You have the room to fit it in the stock bumper. Do the quad tips, they look amazing. And then on these, some people do the quad tips, but I'm not a big fan of them on the Charger. I think you should just keep the dual tips and just poke them out a little bit and do the 5-inch. I think the stock are 3 inches or maybe a little smaller, but they should really be bigger. I mean, look at this car from the back with this 5-inch tips. I mean, that looks amazing, especially when they're poking out like they do. Like you can see these from the bottom. That's how this car should have came from the factory. So, 2 is, I would have just took my resonators off from the get-go if I knew that there wasn't all the options that you really want for exhaust tips 5 inches, which you can't go any bigger because it's already almost close to the plastic bumper, rear valance, or whatever you want to call that in the back, diffuser or whatever. You need to remove your resonators because they're just not going to fit. I would have just done that from the get-go. But hey, I didn't know, you live and you learn. So right now my car is straight piped, and I'll probably put some performance mids on there. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know, we'll see. But guys, to be honest, when you get these cars, to be honest, I would just take off my resonators. And then of course, if you want to get a straight pipe, you don't have any emission laws or anything in your state or country, yeah, just go on and straight pipe it. You have no issue. I mean, go on and gut out your cats. Gut them out, don't remove them, gut them out. Because it's way better and it won't throw a code to your computer. Yeah, go on and do that. It's straight piping all together. But here in North Carolina, when you have to have one set of mufflers, I would have just, you know, without the headache of trying to find somebody to inspect it, I would have just took my resonators off, put the 5-inch chips on there, and then put some performance mids on there, like some Outlaws or some, I think there's another muffler called SPs, some performance muffler that it could pass inspection with. And a lot of these performance mufflers, they're performance mufflers because they're not as restrictive to the sound as the ones that come on the vehicle. So you still get that loud, throaty, deep, I'm not gonna say baritone because that's more singing, sound that you get, that you want from just a straight piping. But you don't get any more sound from removing the resonators and the mid mufflers. Mid mufflers is it sounds pretty much the same. Nothing that your human ears are gonna hear. Maybe a decimal meter, you could hear a little louder, but pretty much the same. And I might throw a clip in there of mine before, when I did the mid muffler, and then after I did the resonator. I might combine those two videos into one, but it's really not a huge difference in sound. So I just took them off just to get these 5-inch chips on there because they look amazing, and I do not regret it one bit. But guys, it's up to you what you want to do in your country and things like that. But I would just take the resonators off and get the tips. And that's on the Challenger or the Charger. Just take the resonators off, get the tips, put a performance muffler in the middle where the mids are. If you really want that sound, that's really what I would recommend, guys, for these cars, because straight piping, to be honest, that the drone does get like to certain points, and my ears are very sensitive as well. So, and sometimes I ride with no music on because I just be, you know, driving, and driving for me is a pastime, and it helps me think as well. And it's just like between 1 and 2,000 RPM, it's just like, it's crazy. I'm not gonna tell you, it's crazy. When you get a little bit of that when you take your mids off, but you really get it when you take the resonators off. Because the whole point of a resonator is to reduce those frequencies that you hear, which is the drone. That's why you have resonators. And when they're gone, there's nothing to reduce that. So guys, as usual, this is Redline Junkies. My name is Zaquan. Hit the thumbs up if you like what you see. Subscribe, turn on bell notifications.